Suresh says SWOT analysis. Help to learn a new word, true not. SWOT analysis, 7 habits. Ask and receive. Good. Always think win-win. Focus on the positive side. Self-awareness, academics and grades do matter to be a T person. Help to think of a resume standard. Seven habits. Role models. Give respect, take respect. True not, be a jack of all trades. Skills, T skills. Self-awareness. Excellent, excellent. So I want to begin the day by giving you a tip which was given to me back in 2005, 2007 when I was, doing my MBA. And the tip is, please maintain a notebook or a diary which you can call as WILT, which expands to what I learned today. What I found it useful is because a few of us who maintained it, we found it to be useful towards the end of our MBA, also during our internships. To give you a small example is, you might have a corporate speaker who comes and talks to you at the beginning of your MBA and your MBA first year. However, the same person or the same company might come in to offer internship or placements later during the course of the program. Now, if you had maintained a diary and maintained a note of what the person who's a CEO or somebody key from that organization had mentioned, and then you bring it back in the interview, it carries a whole lot of weightage, right? Plus, there are a lot of insights that some of these people can give you from the field. And when I say people from the field, I don't specifically mean me and Asha, ma'am. I'm talking about speakers like the speaker you had day before yesterday, right? So these are all people about whom what they say you might have written a one-page report and submitted to the college. Please don't read these assignments as submissions to the college's purpose only, but look at it as something that you can benefit from. I remember one of my batchmates who, did this exercise. Later on during placement time, it was really a coincidence, you can say, or he had prepared for the opportunity that this very same person was on the panel. And when he quoted what that person said, the person, really appreciated the fact that he had paid attention and made a note of it, right? We say that to be a great leader, you have to be a follower, right? And if you can take instructions well, and this friend of mine had actually implemented what he had suggested that one should do, in terms of preparation of getting into the financial services sector, for example, right? So there you go. So maintain a notebook called What I Learned Today, and it can apply to not only external resources, even what your faculty tell you. So if you want to, kind of improve your knowledge on marketing 100% from what it is today, every new detail or info that you get over the next 100 days on marketing adds to your overall marketing knowledge, right? Or financial knowledge, financial services sector knowledge. So pay attention and see if you can do this, and you'll find this really beneficial, right? The What I Learned Today as a diary or notebook. So I want to now, get into a very key aspect about how we actually do presentations, right? So I find that a lot of MBA students, especially who don't have enough work experience, because if you have work experience and they made you do a lot of presentations, there is a natural flow to it. In colleges, generally, it becomes difficult in degree colleges with the numbers for everybody to improve their presentation skills very well. If you have been part of such an institution, that's fantastic for you. So to get started on it, I'm going to use today's session itself as an example. So I want all of you to keep your notebook ready. I'm going to give you a really simple formula. And if you are ready, the simple formula is called 4T, the number 4 and the letter T, right? So if you're ready to take down the 4T formula, type in the chat box, go 4T. Excellent. Excellent. So let me first give you the demonstration and then I will explain the formula, right? So class, today I'm going to talk to you about key aspects which are essential for your MBA success, right? And what am I going to cover today? I'm going to start with talking about resume visualization 2022. I'm going to look at doing a lifeline activity with you to help you, map your life and leverage it. I'm going to be covering goal setting with SMART goals. I'm going to be covering time management with the Eisenhower matrix methodology approach. We're also going to look at, networking tool called LinkedIn and what's the use of it. Somewhere in all of this, I'm also going to talk to you about SIP, which is self-initiated project, probably right at the beginning with the resume context, right? And definitely about LinkedIn and how it's useful as a networking tool for your job search, more so from trying to understand what's the kind of job that you can get into, right? So now what I've done, friends, is I have shown you the demonstration of how 4T works. To explain it further, I want you in your notebook to write the alphabet T 4 times. T right at the top, a T below that, a T below that, a T below that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4 T's, right? Now, great. So I can see Chris has typed done. So if you're done putting down 4 T's in your thing, just type in done. Excellent. So now getting on to it. So what I demonstrated to you, we might be having, nervousness stage here. We want some kind of a simple structure to do our presentations, right? In college or later on when we go. So the 4 T's gives you a very simple approach. The first T, right? Write down, tell them what you're going to tell them. The first T is tell them what you're going to tell them. So I told you what I'm going to cover, right? I told you all these different topics that I'm going to cover, right? So write down for the first T, tell them what you're going to tell them, right? So if it's done, put done T1 in the chat box. Excellent, excellent. So now we move on to the second T, right? And the second T, you might have guessed it already, is tell them. So I told you that these are the points I'm going to cover. So then you start covering it. That's the major part of the presentation, which is T2, where you tell them what you said that you would, tell them, right? So you take them through the different points, right? So the movie shows you a trailer, and after the trailer, you might have seen some sequences in the trailer. You actually see what's actually happening in the movie based on those sequences, right? A lot of times you find that the trailer is also in a particular sequence, right? And then you start correlating it to that, right? So if you've done with T2, please type in done T2, right? So the first T is tell them what you're going to tell them. The second T is tell them. So the third T is tell them what you just told them, right? So which means you're giving a summary. T3 is a summary where you tell them what you've told them. So after, let us say, for example, you have presented for 15 minutes. When you are into the last 2-3 minutes, if you have time, of course, you say, okay, I said that I'm going to be covering these aspects. So the same first slide which you had for the content slide, you can just change the heading and say recap or summary, right? And T3 is tell them what you've told them or the summary of what you've already, taken them through, right? So if you're done with the third T as well, please type in the chat box T3, done T3. Excellent. Excellent. So now T4, right? So we're coming to T4. Now what happens is generally you will find that if you're working in a company or everything is continuous, it's a continuous flow, right? So now after you have made a presentation on the survey questions that you are going to be doing to the panel of faculty or your own classmates, you're going to now tell them what you're going to do next, or you're going to tell them what you want them to do. So let us say, for example, you are organizing a management fest in your college, and the management fest in the college, you are the senior batch. So your faculty asks you to come up with a plan, right? And you have the first year students who are sitting in the audience, and you tell them that this is the plan, these are the different teams, these are the different management games, and we are going to be conducting a management fest which is intercollegiate. So at the end of the presentation, you will tell them who are in which team and what they're going to do. So the fourth T is poised towards action, where you're either telling your faculty what you're going to do next, right, after your presentation or your survey, right? Or if you're in an organization, you'll tell them based on your presentation, what's the next steps, right? So that's T4, right? The action plan, right? So first T is tell them what you're going to tell them. Second T is tell them. Third T is tell them what you just told them. And the last T is tell them what you want them to do or what you are going to do, right? The action point. So if you've understood T4, type in saying T4 done. So this, my dear friends, is a very simple way in which you can effectively start doing presentations. It gives you a kind of a structure, definitely. So you can get started on doing short presentations. This really helps you. So now I want to come back to the resume visualization process and talk to you about resume, CV, master CV. Okay. So now a lot of you might be wondering, like, what is the difference between a CV and a resume, right? If you know the difference between the resume and a CV, please type in what you think is a CV in the chat box and type in what you think is a resume in the chat box. If you know, please mention. Otherwise, you can just say, I skip or I pass. If you don't know, just put in I skip in the chat box or I pass in the chat box. I can see that Faiz is saying it's for the experienced one. Somebody's given the expansion curriculum vitae. Okay. So let me get into explaining it. So that's great. Cyril says CV is a record of our academics accomplishments. Chris says resume is an identity of ourselves. Okay. Okay. C for experienced one, but resume is for freshers, says Ashi. Okay. That's really good. That's like guesswork, right? You're guessing, right, Ashi? It looks like you're guessing. Okay. So let me explain. So generally, CV or curriculum vitae basically means a list of everything that you have done, work-wise, reading-wise. And so it's usually used in academic circles and research people where they will list out every conference that they have participated in, every class or batch they might have taken sessions for. They might have been, in charge of examinations. That's also mentioned. So they mention everything they've done, and there is no page limit per se for a CV, right? So there are people who will mention who would have been prolific research paper publishers, right? For example, if you look at Adam Grant at Harvard Business School, even though he's one of the youngest professors and at Harvard Business School, he's got a phenomenal string of articles which have been published, right? Which would run into pages. So a curriculum vitae is all the work that you would have done right through your years of experience, right? A resume, whether you are having 1 year experience or 20 years experience, is a appropriate part of your work experience put into a 1-page or 2-page document for a particular role that you're applying to, right? You might find that there are people who will tell you, who are older to you, saying, I sent my resume to 20 different companies, none of the companies got back. Now, what would have happened in that case, my dear friends, is that the person would have taken one resume format, filled in a certain part of the projects for the first job, and then shared it with all the remaining 90 companies. There might be similar companies, right? But still, what would have happened in that case is that the people who are evaluating your resume are looking for matching keywords, for example, right, in the job description and this. If you have a job description, is there for each profile. So ideally, each time you see a job description, even though it looks similar, you should definitely create resume in French means a short or an appropriate customized version, right? That's what it means. So you might have 20 years of experience in sales, but when you apply for a sales job, in 1.5 pages, you put together those parts of your experience which is very, very specific to the role that you're applying. So you might have worked in 10 jobs, right? You might even mention all the 10 jobs, but you describe it in one sentence each, keeping in mind what's the expectation of the recruiter and for what job you're being fitted in, right? So that is what we call as a resume, a short, appropriate version of what you have done for that specific role that you're applying. What is a master's CV? Now, a master CV is something which I have used the terminology to define. For you, for example, in these 2 years of MBA, you will do a lot of projects and work. Assignments will be given by your college faculty. People might come in from outside. There might be programs you participate in. You might organize. So in a master CV, you mention all of this in detail, right? And it could include even something which could have happened during orientation, induction, pre-placement talk, right? Now it's an essential part on which you've spent some time on it at least, right? And what this does is it gives you an option towards the end of your program when you start applying for jobs to copy, cut, and edit and put into a shorter resume, right? So, for example, if you start participating in management games in financial services focused games, you might participate in 3 and you might win in 1, right? But when you're participating first, you don't know whether you will win in the next fest or not. So initially, you should note down all your participation, a description of the event, everything that you did, right? And what happens is towards the end, if you win, then you put only the achievement where you won and don't mention the participation. But let's say that due to whatever circumstances you don't land up winning, at least you can put that you participated in a national level fest or a competition, right? So master CV is a CV that you will create in terms of putting your experiences, projects. Now there might be a project given to you by one of your marketing faculty to do a small research in the local area amongst the restaurants in the area. Now it might be a part of your project. We might not get a certificate from any of these restaurants, right? And it might be a task, but it's a very practical application of your market research skills. So you should make a mention of this project, give it the title of the report which you would have submitted it. Mention, in short description in your master's CV, what you did on the project, how many restaurants you did the survey of, so on and so forth. So in case tomorrow you applied for a food FMCG company or something related to the food segment or hospitality segment, you can mention this small project as a practical micro project, right? In your resume, for example. It's a possibility because you're customizing it. Now, it might not be relevant if you're going to apply it for let's say for a HR role. But what if you're applying for a HR role in the restaurant services industry, right? That means you're at least aware of, the segment. You're showing familiarity with it. So that's where transferable skills come in. So whatever you do over the next 2 years, keep putting it, into the master CV. One more example I want to quote is that I went through quite a number of the resumes yesterday, which was sent across to me. And I noticed that a lot of the industrial projects that you went for, right, site visit for industrial visits, there are a lot of people who put in only a single line, right? As we discussed earlier, in the master CV, what you can do is, let's say in your MBA course, you're being taken for industrial visit to a tile factory close by, and the tile factory has a website, you can mention the website in your master CV, put in a short one sentence description. Now, it could happen that at the end of the industrial visit, which is hardly for 45 minutes to an hour, the marketing manager might, talk to you, Q&A, right? And if you've gone through the, website, you might be able to ask questions, right? If not anything else, the person might share information with you, like how these tiles are being exported to interior design firms overseas, right, and to other countries. Now, at this present point of time, you might not have a specific interest in the tile industry. But let us say, for example, there is an opportunity as you're searching for jobs. You find that there's an opportunity to join a major tile company like Kajaria Tiles or, a really large organization. And you have this industrial visit. Mentioning the industrial visit would give you an advantage, right? Or if you're applying to interior design firm, architectural products. Now, all these organizations, you will have certain internships, you'll do projects which you'll do, which is directly connected to the company that you're applying to. Or you might have done a certain, research project or something related to the customers, partners, distributors, stakeholders of that industry that you're trying to get into. So all of this shows that you have some, familiarity or meeting point in terms of what you've done, what you've worked on in your projects, and what this is offering. What I'm saying might, look a little stretched, but this is something that you can definitely, be open to. And how to connect it to, we can discuss it at a later point of time. So I would recommend that you build a master CV. So now, I hope that this makes sense. If what I'm saying makes sense to you, please type in the chat box, makes sense. Or you can type in yes. Excellent. So I want to, take a couple of minutes to get into talking about one more aspect, which is SIP, which I spoke about. Now, I know there are many of you who are interested in the financial services industry. And the moment I said SIP, you must be thinking SIP is systematic investment plan, right? That's what you would be thinking. But when I am saying SIP, I am looking at it from the viewpoint of self-initiated project. Now, yesterday, when we were, discussing, I put across a point to you saying that how are you going to use your free time, right? That's going to have a really huge impact, right? So now, for example, let's say you have Onam vacation, which comes up, and you have 15 days, I'm just saying, of vacation time. I'm not saying that you should not, chill and have a good, easy time with friends and family during those 15 days. All I'm asking is, are you willing to, in those 15 days of time, dedicate 5 days or a week to do a self-initiated project, right? And just give me a second. Now, what is a self-initiated project, right? Now, a self-initiated project is, as it indicates in terms of description, is self-initiated. So let me give you an example to illustrate it, right? So your college would have specifically, your university will have specific guidelines that you should do a final year long-term project. You should do an internship within 6 months or a completion of your first year of MBA. So there are different guidelines that the college will have. Now, I spoke to you yesterday about you have ordinary and you have extraordinary, right? Now, what is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary? It's a little extra, right? Just a little extra. Now, during the time that the rest of Kerala, the rest of India, all these business schools are taking off, either for Christmas or, in terms of Onam in Kerala, right? Christmas right through the country and Onam. Now, imagine that either you do a 1 week project with something related to Onam. It could be a good restaurant which is doing a Onam promotion, or it could be a set of different products which are being marketed as Onam Bonanza projects with a TV or a consumer durable showroom in terms of special sales, right? I'm sure if you go to Vinish sir and ask him to provide you with a certificate that you're a bona fide student of Berkman's Institute of Management Studies, he or any faculty will help you with that, right? And definitely your director, principal, dean, everybody will support you because you're doing something extra. And you go and you're able to get an internship and you do a 5-day project, right? A 5-day or a 1-week project. Imagine you're in the interview room. Yeah? Let's fast forward into the future. In 2022, you're sitting in the interview room and they ask you, okay, Shravan, why should we hire you? What's so different about you, right? What have you done extra? How are you different from from other people in your class, college, or across India or the world? And just imagine at that point of time, you say, sir, we had Onam celebrations and, me and a few others. Even if everybody in your college does it, I'm saying, right? Individually separate projects. You still are, as a college, being very, very different from all the other colleges in Kerala, right? Right? So don't you think you would nail the interview, right? Just, yes, when I did something extra, a self-initiated project, right? That shows that you're willing to put in extra, right? I'll give you an example and a reference. One of the world's top car salesperson, Joe Girard, was his name. And he was a phenomenal sales guy. And he invented the entire concept of what we know today and take for granted. When you want to drive a car, somebody comes to your house and gives you a test ride, right? So this guy in America, a good, 40, 50 years earlier or so, he, came up with this concept when everybody used to go and relax at lunchtime. That's exactly when Joe Girard would work. So he would actually go to call somebody and say, hey, I'm selling cars. Can I drive you to the place you want to have lunch? And when he reached the place, he would give the person the car and the key and say, why don't you drive it so you'll get a feel of the car, right? So when everybody else was taking off for lunch and, it took some time for the rest of the car industry for people to figure out why is this guy doing phenomenal sales. And this is exactly what Joe Girard was doing, right? We say that winners don't do different things. They do things differently. And this is exactly what he did. When everybody was at lunch, he was working. And when everybody else was working, he was having a really satisfactory lunch, right? So he sold, the largest and the biggest and the most expensive cars because he would go to people where they didn't have time, go to their home, go to their workplace and offer to bring the car to them instead of them having to walk into the car showroom. So he changed the rules of the game. So I want to give one more example from Kerala to just drive this concept of self-initiated projects. So this was when I was working as a soft skill trainer, placement employability skills trainer with a college in Kerala, with a business school, MBA school in Kerala back in 2008, 2009. And that's where I met Asha ma'am. Asha ma'am was the corporate relations head there, the manager there. And so we were running the sessions. And just like I'm telling you today, I used to say that even then, ask people to do self-initiated projects, do that little bit extra stuff. Now we say that, there might be 100 people in a room, but probably one person will catch on. And, definitely I don't want to put peer pressure by saying, oh, I spoke and, the entire 100 people in that classroom, everybody did self-initiated projects. No. There too, there were around 120 students that year in MBA/PGDM courses at that institute. And Arun was the only one I remember very distinctly coming up to me. And this is the time 2008, 9, 10 when number portability was being discussed, but it was nowhere close to being actioned, right? And Arun Wahid actually took this point during one of the vacations to actually, identify and work, for example, in the telecom sector. He was very passionate about working in the telecom sector and getting into the telecom sector. And this resulted in Arun actually going to a telecom distributor's office during this time. And let me tell you this is something that, might come as a pleasant surprise to you. When he went to that particular place, he found that there was a security guard and he couldn't get in. Now, what would you or I have done? I said, it's okay, I'll try next time and gone back. But Arun was very resilient, right? And what Arun Wai did was he waited. He spoke to the security guard, chatted up with him. And then, usually in sales offices, right, across the country, across the world, I don't know why it's a commonality, but there are a lot of sales people who tend to smoke, right? This is a customer behavior trait. I'm not promoting you to smoke cigarettes or not smoke cigarettes, nothing like that. I'm just focusing on observation, right? So Arun himself was not a smoker, but Arun realized that at that there would eventually be somebody who will come out, right? And he checked it. He might have asked the security guard for all I know, and he waited for close to 45 minutes to an hour, and somebody did come out to have a smoke. And then he went and spoke to the person. The security guard also told that person, this person's been waiting. The student has been waiting for close to an hour now, and definitely this person who's working in the office was impressed, and he took him in, showing his own ID card, took him in and told him to wait. Now, after entering the office and making him wait in the waiting area, this gentleman forgot about Arun Vahid, because Arun Vahid is not like his friend or anything, right? He just went and got involved in his work. So for the next 2 hours, possibly or more, till lunchtime, Arun Vahid was sitting there waiting. And then finally, because he was right at the entrance, the team broke for lunch and the same person came out. He looked at him and he said, oh, I forgot. And then immediately took Arun and introduced him to his boss, the distributor, the distribution head. And Arun was given a project where Arun actually got in those 5 days to go around that city and look at small people who were retailing cards, prepaid cards. He was looking at different merchants, stationery shop, it could even be, like a grocery shop, for example, different places. So he had this one self-initiated project and he did several such projects. This is something I didn't actually mention for the previous batch, but let me tell you that he actually got through a telecom operator and his placement was confirmed. Then he came to me and he asked me in that last session, which we are doing, what else can I do? So I asked him, you've got a job, Arun, relax. Why you? So he said, sir, what if during the placement season is over and then I've heard that some companies don't necessarily take them on. They might say the position is full or something. I want to keep building my knowledge about the telecom sector. That's when Arun actually did another project towards the end of the program where he went and asked different students and different people. He created a survey form. And in the survey form, he asked people if they were unhappy with a particular service operator, right? And he built a database. So when he actually went to work, believe it or not, he was actually in a position to have customer names to get people to switch. Because I remember a couple of years later, when number portability was announced, he was one of these people who already had done a market research survey, right? The last survey that he did before completing his MBA, even though he had a job in hand, right? So I hope this makes the case for self-initiated projects. Now, as I'm saying this, dear friends, I want to definitely tell you, please don't prioritize self-initiated projects above your academics. I don't want a situation where your faculty gets in touch with me and says, Shravan, what have you done? All our students are doing only self-initiated projects outside. They're not doing academic work, right? So self-initiated projects, as I said, is extra, right? You have to do what needs to be done in terms of academics, your MBA coursework and other things, which is priority number one. When you have free time, as I'm saying, in the free time where there's no clash of other things, please see how you can do these extra projects. So if you think SIP makes sense, and then say, this SIP rocks, right? Type in the chat box SIP rocks if you feel that a self-initiated project as an extra project makes sense to you. Type in the chat box SIP rocks, ROCKS, SIP rocks. Great. So excellent. So now that we've looked at, this, now I want to specifically get into this activity which I call as the lifeline activity. And this is something which is I feel is really useful. Is all of you have seen movies, right? And especially now during COVID time, we see this medical lifeline where there is a line running, right? There's a machine and it's going up, down, up, down, up, down, right? Could be ECG machine or ICU. If you've seen lifeline and you understand what I mean by that, type lifeline in the chat box. Great. So we are in sync and we are in line with this. So now I want to just suggest to you that in your notebook, take a blank page, right? Take a blank page. Okay. And I want you to write 0 on one end of the blank page, right at the bottom, 0, right? And at the other side, I want you to write your current age at the same line, right? At the other end of the in the page, either mid page or a little, so that there is enough space. I want you to write your current age. Please type your current age in the chat box. 21, 20, 23, 21, 20, 21, 22, 24, 22, 21. Okay, great. So we're having a median age between 21 to 24, right? Excellent. So now what I want you to do is, I want you to draw a line. So if 0 to 23 is here, I want you to go a little above and draw a line in the middle of the page. Right? So 0, 0, 0 is here, 20, 20, 21, 22, 23, whatever is your age is here. And you're drawing a line right parallel to it, right on top, right? So we'll take this as the midline. So if you've drawn the line, just mention line in the chat box. Fantastic. Great. So now what I want to do is, just like we know that when the line goes down, it's an indication of something which was low in life, right? And if it goes above the line, it's something high in life. So I want to share with you my perspective about life, right? In Greek ancient philosophy called Stoicism, they say that the obstacle is the way. It's the problems which actually define us. It's the challenges which bring out the best, right? So from the perspective of you as an individual traversing through your life, going through your life, let's, for example, look at the movie Ustad Hotel, right? How many of you have seen the movie Ustad Hotel? If you've seen the movie Ustad Hotel, type Ustad in the chat box. Phenomenal. It's great to know that so many of you watched Ustad Hotel. It's one of my favorite movies. In that movie, if you see the role that Dulquer Salman, plays, he's born in a family where the father struggled and already made it, and the father has a certain, vision for him that he should do this course, but he, goes and works in the hotel management area, and you have this situation where he's kicked out of home and he's suddenly, down, right? So now, if you look at his hero's journey as such, it is the low in his life which actually gives meaning to his life, right? So you look at all the different movies, for example, right, that you would have watched, and you'll find that the heroes are there, right? The hero is somebody whom you cheer for when he's down more, right? When you see the down of the person, you figure out how the person's going high. So what I want you to do now is, in your book, between your age of 0 to where you are now, I want you to identify 3 points in your life where life was high and 3 points where life was low, and just mention a keyword associated with that. Now, a low in your life could have been the passing away of somebody, losing somebody. A low for me was in 2014 when I was 34, when I lost my father to cancer, right? Now, similarly, it could be anything which was really down. You might have been depressed, you might have failed in studies, whatever it is, right? I want you to just mention the year and I also want you to mention what was the high about, right? Which year, what age were you, and what was the high? It could be something that you won. It could be something that you felt happy about. It could have been you traveled somewhere, you spent time with a friend. It could be anything, right? I want you to write down. So three low points in your life, three high points as per your age. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do this activity. We're now at 11:47. So your time starts now, and you need to do it in your book. And you have time till 11:52, right? So if you've understood and you have started doing the activity, I want you to type in the chat box, I am alive. You have another 3 minutes. So you have 2 minutes left. There's a lot that can get done in 2 minutes. Can be 2 minutes. Maggie can get done. You can also in 2 minutes a batsman can get out. In 2 minutes, if you're not watching the TV, a penalty, shootout, kick, football goal can also be scored. So every minute is precious. So you have 1 minute to go. Okay, time's up. If you're done doing the lifeline activity, type in the chat box lifeline plus sign VE or lifeline positive in the chat box. Excellent. So as I was telling you that, there are ups and downs in life. Now, a template regarding the same will be shared by Vinesh sir with you on your LMS or in your internal WhatsApp groups as such. I want you to focus on the lows in life, and I want you to think about what did you learn from that, right? What did you learn from the low in life? What strength did you discover? Those are the aspects that I want you to focus on, because we learn a lot from when we go down in life. We know who's there for us. We also know who isn't there for us, right? So sometimes our faith takes us through. Sometimes it's our prayers. Sometimes it's somebody else in our life. Sometimes it's us. We find resilience in ourselves. There were people who said yesterday and even sent in the email that they sent to me saying, "So I have no role model," right? So, and in those circumstances, if you have gone through a tough life and you've seen a tough life that your parents are going through, you very clearly know, right, that the role model that you're looking for is closer. Excuse me. Excuse me. So you know for sure that the role model is somebody in your own family, and the role model is sometimes you yourself. So when you realize that, right, you realize that you have what it takes to go the whole hog in life, right? You have the mileage to make the journey in life. So that anyway, so we'll share it with you. I also want to now focus on the fact that good and bad, right? The good and bad that we speak about, right? It's there in us as well. In the ancient ages, if you watch Ramayana, Mahabharata, you had asuras and the gods, right? But actually, if we look at ourselves as human beings, when we spend time in self-reflection, we clearly know what is good in us and what isn't so good in us, right? And we have to focus on the good. If I had time, I would have taken you through a story from America, which is about the native Indians there and what they believe. They believe that, so I'm just going to skip to the lesson. I'm also sharing a small animated video which I and a friend put together, which talks about the relationship and specifically talks about the good wolf and bad wolf in us, right? So whatever is good in us, the good stuff is the good wolf in us, and whatever is bad, our anger and negative emotions, right, are the stuff which pulls us down. Now, actually, there are no negative emotions, right? When you have anger, there is something else which is there which you're not addressing. But definitely, what is seen as a bad wolf rather, and what is seen as a good wolf, and what you feel about yourself, right? So do watch this video. So I want you to be aware of yourselves when you are getting angry, when you're getting irritated, when you're getting frustrated, so that you see the signs and go to the root cause of it, so that professionally and personally you don't suffer with your relationships, right? So be aware of, you know, what is irritating you, frustrating you, making you angry, right? Bringing it into your awareness circle, paying attention to it will help you identify what's happening with you, right? And you can leverage it for the good of your life, for the good of your career as well. So you can watch it later on because I didn't want to play it right now because of data and everyone being in different parts, right? So that would also hold up the presentation. And right now I have around 33 minutes to go and I have some stuff to cover. So I would, want to get into that. So I want to, look at goal setting now and ask you this question, right? Yesterday, all of you put down the reasons, right? You also now have goals. So I want you to right now think of one goal which is really very important to you, which you want to work on over the next 2 years, and you want to see that this goal has been, satisfied, met with, progressed upon. So I want you to take a minute and type into the chat box a keyword or a sentence of the goal that you have for yourself. And the goal could be anything. It could be getting into a job, it could be personality development, it could be developing yourself as a leader, anything. But try and be as specific as possible in terms of the goal that you want to work on a daily, weekly, monthly basis as such. Please type it into the chat box. Independent, says Asina. Great. Which means financially independent, earning your own salary. Yes. Jasmine says getting into an MNC to work on to crack an exam. Communication skill. Work for a good MNC, boost up my self confidence, develop my communication skill. You can see a lot of people want to focus on communication skill, managerial skill, get a good job, look after my parents. Great. Self satisfaction. Excellent. Become a financial supporter to the family. Get placed in a reputed company. Identify ourselves, come up with it. Get in a place where I can use my skills. A good job. Look after family. Fantastic. It's phenomenal that you're looking at personal development and also looking at improving the life of other people who are a part of your life. Very, very satisfying to see that these are your focus areas and not so much materialistic. But it's good to have materialistic goals as well. It helps you to focus as well. A job is 50 salary, that's 50,000 salary. Very specific, Cyril Tom. Thank you for that. So, which brings me now the springboard. Cyril K. Tom has provided me with the perfect springboard to spring into a tool, right? A tool which will definitely help in fine tuning your goals and helping you achieve these goals, right? So, without further ado, let me introduce the tool to you. The tool is called SMART. That's right, SMART goals. So, I want you to right now write down in a page or a notebook S right at the top, M below that, A below that, R below that, and T right at the bottom, right? The alphabets SMART, SMART. If you are writing it down and you've finished writing down SMART, I want you to type in the chat box, ready to be smart. Excellent. To set that up, I want to ask you this question. How many of you have heard of Alice in Wonderland? If you've heard of Alice in Wonderland, type in the chat box, yes, Alice. Excellent. Since all of you know Alice, let me jump right into Alice in Wonderland and take you to that specific part of the story where Alice is trying to figure out where to go, and she's already in Wonderland, right? And somebody has told her, go left, go right, go straight, go this side, go that side. She's finally reached a point where she sees a lot of different roads and she is confused. Where do I go now? Which direction should I go? And suddenly she looks up, and on a tree there is the Cheshire cat. And she looks at this cat, which is a talking cat, and asks the cat, how do I go from here? Right? So the cat asks, where do you want to go? And Alice says, anywhere. And at that point of time, either she says anywhere or she says, I don't know. And at that point of time, the Cheshire cat smiles, grins, and says, then take any road will do. Right? So let's say you're going to start from Changanasheri and you want to go to, let's say, Calicut, you want to go to Trivandrum, you want to go to Bangalore. Would any road that you take you to the destination? No, says Deepak. Yes, absolutely. All of you are right. No. So, which means that we need to know where we are going. We need to set a direction. We need to have a map, and we need to start moving towards that direction, right? So, which basically sets up what SMART is. So, S stands for specific. So, please write against S specific. 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 Specific, right? If you're done writing specific, just put the alphabet S into the chat box so I know I can move on to M. That's a quick response. I appreciate it. So now we go towards M, right? And M is measurable, right? MEASURABLE, measurable, right? So against M, write down the word measurable. So now, if for example, let us say Shravan Shetty wants to lose weight and he starts exercising, how does Shravan Shetty know that he's moving towards the fact that he is losing weight? It means that every day when Shravan exercises, he should look at the weighing scale and see if he's progressing towards that ideal weight, right? At this point of time, I want to ask you, if how many of you have seen this advertisement, which is in Malayalam, which has been going around? This advertisement basically shows that a mother brings a weighing scale, fitness equipment, and starts exercising, right? And she falters, she falls. Then after some time, you find that she's struggling with it. She's looking at the weight, and the husband is only smiling, and the children are confused what's happening with their mother, right? Now, to fast forward the story, towards the end of it, we see that she's progressing, she's losing weight, right? She's eating properly and stuff. And towards the end of this advertisement, we find out that she and her husband get admitted in the hospital. And the children are finally told by a family elder or grandmother that the mother was exercising all these days so that she could be fit, lose weight, and donate, I think, a kidney or a liver to her husband. We've seen this advertisement. Please type yes in the chat box. Great to know that you've all seen it. So now this is a very clear example that the goal was there, right? That she wanted to measure her. If you haven't, but now you know the story, so it's okay if you haven't seen the advertisement. You can always check with your friends who've seen it, and I'm sure you'll find it. But this is just to give you an idea from a story angle as to somebody set a goal, right? An ideal goal to help her husband and the family out. And she's progressing, right? And she's tracking her progress. She knows that she's touching that ideal weight for the surgery, right? For the donation, right? So you have specific, you have measurable, right? Now let's move on to the A component, which is achievable. So against A, please write achievable. If you've done writing S and M, please type SM in the chat box. Great. So now what I want to do is I want to, focus on specifically getting into it from an example of view. So let me just see who's the last person. I can see there's Srihari Jaiprakash and Tessa James and Fatima. So now to three of you, let us say if I tell the three of you that I want you to join these three companies and I want you to do a particular job or role, and I want you to be able to get into this company, right? And I want you to ensure that you are spending at least around 6 hours after your college hours preparing to get into this specific company. Now, the first thing is what goal I'm setting, right? You might be interested in joining that company, which I am talking about. It could be a company that Srihari, Fatima, and Tessa are all interested in getting in, three different companies. But what goal I'm setting with the current academic load of the MBA program, it might not be possible for the person to put in 6 hours every day for the next 6 months or for the next 1 year, right? It is not achievable. So a lot of times when you find that people are, appearing for CAT and preparing for CAT, a lot of times they set a goal which is very high for them, and that is why they fail, right? So even right now, if you are somebody who's been in your degree and your schooling and college, if you've always been a 60-70% student, I can't automatically expect you to become a 90% student, right? So which means that you have to start now to incrementally increase effort right now, so that finally when you really need to put in a lot of effort, you can achieve the goal. But to begin with, your goal needs to be having a little bit of stretch, but it should be achievable. It should not be too low as well, the goal that you're setting, right? So if I say that you should look at a self-initiated project, for the entire duration of the vacation or breaks that you get, that might not be achievable, right? You'll burn out. But if I tell you that, okay, at least 1/3 or half of the time or 3/4 of the time, when you get a vacation, try and see if you can do a self-initiated project. Or at least if I tell you, at least do one self-initiated project per quarter or per semester, so that you'll have at least 4 self-initiated projects, it kind of makes sense, and you might be able to push yourself to make that happen, right? So that kind of explains achievable for you. It has to be a goal which you can achieve. It shouldn't be, too out of reach. Otherwise, you won't be motivated to go after it. It's like that mango which you can reach, right? But it should not be too close. Then you'll just take it easily, right? You might not even be interested in taking it. But when it is slightly higher, you feel like putting a stone, putting a stick. But what if it is like, like the height of, at least 40, 50, 60 feet above? There's no way you can reach it. So you're not even interested in going after the goal. After some trying, you're going to just give up. Right? So if you are in sync with what I've said so far and you've understood specific, measurable, achievable so far, please type into the chat box SMA. Excellent. So now for R, right? R is relevant. R stands for relevant. Please write against specific, measurable, achievable, relevant is R. We're one step away from completing SMART and getting you SMART ready. So R stands for relevant, RELEVANT. Now, the last people whom I see who have typed in a response in the chat box is Sanda, Roshna, and Jobin, right? So now let's say, for example, now these are three people who say that, they want some help getting into a particular job and they're interested in the financial services sector. But if I told them, for example, that, I can't help you with financial services jobs, I want you to take up a HR job. and I'll pay you the same salary that you would have got in the financial services sector. Now, it's a different thing if the job market you have tried, and you're getting into this at the last. I'm saying right at the beginning of this particular program, if you tell me that you want to do something and I tell you don't do A, do B, right? Would you, Sanda, Roshna, and Jobin, do something just because I am asking you to do it? If I ask you to get into a job which you're not interested in, will you work on that goal? Type yes or no as response. Absolutely, right? Because this is not a goal which is relevant to you. Why will you take it up? So definitely, whenever you're looking at setting smart goals, it needs to be specific, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be definitely achievable, and it has to be relevant to you, my friend, to you, each one of you. That is the reason why I asked you yesterday, give me 3 strong reasons why you're doing this MBA. So when you're getting into a job, if you know why you're taking up that job and you're convinced that this job is right for you, you're going to do phenomenally well on that job, right? Definitely it's going to motivate you as you get closer to that, right? So if you've looked and understood at SMAR, I want you to type into the chat box SMAR. Great, good to know we're together on this journey. So now let's get down to the T in SMART. T stands for time bound. TIMEBOUND, right? Stands for time bound. Now, as you would have figured of it, we need to set small deadlines, right? So for example, if I say that I want to be increasing or improving my communication skills, I need to set time, I need to measure it, it needs to be achievable. So which means that I need to keep reviewing it from time to time, right? I need to keep tracking it. So in first month, if I am going to say that I am going to be ready by the end of this 1 month, if I have stage fear to talk to 1,000 people, it is going to be a challenge. But if you say that I'm going to start with first making a presentation to a small group of 5 or 10 people, improve my confidence, then do a 2-minute presentation or a 5-minute presentation as part of a team in front of my other classmates or interclass competitions. You go for the competition, but don't focus on winning, but focus on participating and speaking for 2 minutes. Plan for 2 minutes, practice for 2 minutes, 2-3 times, and then go and deliver the presentation. You feel your confidence will increase. Then you can increase the time that you're spending on it. You can look at different parts of your presentation which you want to improve. It could be the content, it could be the way you talk. So you have to define and break up personality development. It can't be just a single goal which you're saying overall, I want to get into a good job in a multinational company. Name it to claim it, right? So you have to say, I want to get into a MNC, which is a financial services company. What are the financial services companies now? What are they looking at? What is the criteria? What are the skill sets that they're looking at, right? What are the strength areas that you should have to get into that particular company, right? So this is where, friends, I'm going to give you an assignment where you are going to create a LinkedIn profile between now and today evening. And in the LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn is a social platform just like Facebook, but this is for job, career, and business. You will create your profile using your email ID and you will generate a password and build it. It's like almost like a CV where you can fill out what you've done in terms of your studies and everything. So which means that what we are looking at is that you will get an idea in terms of similar people to you, people who might have finished their MBA a year ago or just finished, what kind of a jobs have they got into? Similar jobs which you're looking at. So you can understand by looking at their LinkedIn profile what they've done, right? So that will give you an idea what certifications to do, what kind of projects to do, what kind of companies are there which can hire, right? So this is an assignment which is going to get you started on. My LinkedIn profile and Vinicius' LinkedIn profile URL will be shared with you. Your goal is to create your LinkedIn profile and add me and him today, and also add each other. You have to add the remaining people in this group. And by tomorrow, you have to also add people in the other group, right? So you will have like at least 58 into 2 plus a few people in your network. And definitely based on the willingness of your faculty, once you've created your profile after checking with them through Manish sir, you can definitely add them, right? So it's consent always, so keep that in mind. So which means T stands for time bound, right? So now you're setting a goal, you're being specific, you're setting measurement, you're measuring it, tracking it, you're ensuring it's achievable, you're ensuring it's your goal, not goal somebody else has set. It's a very relevant goal for you. And yes, it's time bound, right? You're tracking this goal. So if you've understood SMART roundabout and I have a good understanding of what SMART goals are, please type it in the chat box. I am smart, right? So put that into the chat box. Excellent now. So to ensure that you are able to classify your resume, classify everything easily, I'm going to give you the 4 components which goes into your master's CV, which will also help you in terms of your LinkedIn profile. What are the different things that you've done which you can put? Participant, achievements, activities, all of that. So what we have for you is aces. Yes, that's an ace up your sleeve, and you can have several aces up your sleeve to land that dream job of yours. So I want you to write down ACES, right? This is what your resume will contain in terms of 4 areas. If you're ready with, to understand what aces are, I want you to type in, I'm a ace. I am a ace. Yes. So on that note, quickly, A stands for academics. Write it down. A stands for academics. C stands for co-curricular. E stands for extracurricular. S stands for social volunteering. I'll explain it in a bit. So write down A for academics, C for co-curricular, E for extracurricular, S for social volunteering or social work or social projects, right? So let me quickly explain. So anything you do in terms of your course, grades, paper presentations, projects, right, which is part of your course curriculum, is what you're going to put it up as academics, right? And your academics, projects, presentations, whatever you've done, your academic grades, all of that in your resume, LinkedIn, everything comes under that. Co-curricular is when you have management fests and competitions which are related to your curriculum, but not a part of your specific course as such, right? So, for example, your co-curricular is competitions that you go for, right? It could be in inter-class, it could be inter-college competitions as well. But it's all related to management games and areas related to that, right? Paper presentations are also co-curricular. Extracurricular is your activities which is in sports, cultural, and those areas, right? So competitions which are not connected, even literary activities. Now, if you're a BA student and you're doing an MA course, then literary activities become co-curricular, right? But in this case, since you're doing a management program, co-curricular is everything related to the management activities and competitions, right? So keep that in mind. S is social projects. Now you might be part of a Christian missionary youth. You might be part of your local mosque group in terms of helping the poor, feeding the poor. You might be part of a temple forum where you're volunteering with it to help the elderly and the poor. So if you're doing that work and that organization can give you a certificate, nothing like it, that's like a proof that you're doing the work. Or it could be NGO organizations, social work organizations for whom you do some voluntary work, right? So this is what ACES is, right? This is what are general blocks that you will see it in your resume. I'm not going to go into detail at this point of time because I'm actually running a little short of time. I've got 8 minutes up. So if you are done with ACEs and you've understood it, just type into the chat box ACEs. Excellent. So we are now on track. So I want to quickly get into something which is called as a time management matrix, because managing MBA time is always considered to be a challenge, because there's so many things happening and you're trying to figure out how to manage your personal life, how to manage your MBA life. Over and above that, if you get like a project or something which you have to do parallelly as such, prepare for your exams, a lot of things are, happening at the same time, right? So to help you with that, I want to introduce to you a time management tool, for which what I want you to do is move to a fresh sheet of paper, and I want you to draw a large box, right? And section it into four. So a large box, and it should have four quadrants, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, four quadrants. If you have drawn the four boxes, I said one large box, and there are four boxes, type done. Great. Type done if you've drawn four boxes. Excellent. So now what I want you to do is in the topmost box, right? In the topmost box, the first box, which is there on your sheet of paper, I want you to type in do. Okay, do. If you finish writing do in the first quadrant in the center of the box, type do in the chat box. Excellent. So now let's move on to the second chat box, and I want you to write the word decide, which is in the second box. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I want you to put down in the first box is do. In the second box, I want you to write the word decide. DECIDE, decide. If you've written it in your book, put the same word into the chat box, decide. Excellent. We are on at the right pace. So now let's move from do, decide, right? On your sheet of paper, facing you. Now let's go to the third box, and I want you to put in the third box, delegate. DELEGATE, delegate. Yes. So if you put it across into your notebook, type the same into the chat box. So we are 75% done with the time management matrix, which is also called as the Eisenhower time management matrix or the Eisenhower tool. So we go to the last part of the box, the last box, and I want you to type in delete. DELETE, delete. Excellent. So we've got all the four boxes covered. Now let's put an explanation note to make it very easy for us to understand, right? Before I give you an example. So right up in the do box, below do, I want you to write two words, urgent and important, right? Urgent and important. URGENT, IMPORTANT, urgent, important. I want you to put it in the do box below the word do, urgent, important, right? If you finish writing urgent and important, I want you to type into the chat box UI. Excellent. So now let's move to the second box, which is decide. And I want you to write there important, not urgent. In the decide box below it, write important, IMPORTANT, and not urgent. So let me just rephrase it for clarity. I might have got it a little misplaced. So the first box is do, urgent and important. The second box, decide, is important, not urgent. Okay, I'm just repeating it. I might have confused you, but I'm just repeating it. First box, do, is urgent and important. Second box is decide, important, not urgent. If you've got it right, important, not urgent, type into the chat box INU. Now let's move on to the third box, which is delegate. And if you're ready to type into the delegate box, I want you to type in urgent and not important. I want you to type into the third box, delegate, urgent, 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 not important. Urgent, not important. And if you have done it, then the initials are going to be U and I in the chat box. Excellent. Now we move into delete, and you would have guessed it right. The description is not urgent, not important. The fourth one, delete, is not urgent, not important. Not urgent, NU, NI, or not important, not urgent, right? So let me just explain to you very quickly as we are running out of time. We're going towards the closure of today's session. When we are looking at a time, as I was telling you, right? So later on, Stephen Covey also looked at the Eisenhower matrix and kind of kept it similar and then came up with a different interpretation. There are different versions of this. So just to let you know why it's called Eisenhower matrix, it's basically based and is inspired by a gentleman called Dwight Eisenhower, who was the US president at a point of time before he became the United States of America president. This man was also an army general, very well recognized and very well appreciated for the way he managed time, because he was also an army person. Plus, he went into politics and he was one of those people with a longer term in the US presidency as well. So we live our lives on a weekly basis, right? We have Sunday, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right up to the entire week. So there is parts of the day which is reserved for work. There is part of the time which is reserved for free time and relaxation. All of that is there. But when we're looking at the work that we do, a lot of times what happens is we leave things, we let things be, right? So let's say August 15th is the deadline for you to submit something. Now, you know August 15th is important, right? So let's say you are in at 1 o'clock on August 15th and you have not submitted the project. Suddenly, that is there in the first column of do for you. It's urgent, it's important. You have to do this. You can't avoid working on it, right? Now, if you start working when it's very urgent, very important, you're going to have a quality of work on the project which might not be great. Now, you knew on 5th itself that you had to submit on 15th. If you had planned your time, it would not have reached a stage where you have to spend all your time in the do box. Then everything is. So the basic thing is we need to prioritize different tasks and give it a certain weightage and work on it. So a lot of times as students and as people who are younger in our family, we might be given a lot of responsibilities, right? But there also we have some autonomy to pass it on to somebody younger to us, for example. So which means that if you're in the do box and you have a lot of things, you have to focus on what's really very urgent, very important. Right? Now, if you start becoming very good at planning and planning in advance, in the decide box, this 15th August project, if you had already started working it on 5th and by 7th you had reached halfway, and by 12th you had completed with the project as your timeline, reviewed the project to see if there are any mistakes, and by 14th, right, you actually again went through it to be on save, or even pushed it till maximum 15th morning, right, and you sent it out by 15th morning, well before the deadline, then you are definitely getting good at managing your time, right? Now, when the timeline is shorter, you have to also prioritize things. It just pushes you to figure out what you can do, what somebody else can do for you, and what you can do later, or what you don't want to do at all, right? So, keeping that in mind, you, I've already told you that do is crisis, right? If you start moving things into the decide quarter, planning it, finishing it off, there will be hardly anything which will be there in your do box, because you're already deciding and doing, right? So there's nothing, there's very little left which, because of some unplanned thing or something coming your way, it gets delayed and it affects you. So we come to delegate now. In delegate, let us say for example your mother needs you to buy vegetables for today's food, right? Now she's told it to you that she wants it right now, right? So you have an option to either ask the person to come and deliver it to your house, or plan it in such a way that you could have done it earlier in the week. If she told you potatoes are getting over, right, then you should have bought the potatoes the same day if you are going to do it. The more you push it, it reaches a point where either somebody else has to do it. And if you have August 15th deadline and suddenly your mother says there is no vegetables in the house and you have to go get it, then everything for you is in the do box, right? But if you had planned it 2-3 days in advance, or immediately if you have somebody else, right, so that your current project crisis doesn't become even bigger project crisis, you have to not look like the person who does everything in the house. Look to your younger brother or somebody and say, can you get it, right? So you have the agency to actually use what you're studying as a priority and also delegate tasks, right? So definitely you have to ensure that you are definitely taking care of your time by either planning for it in advance or delegating it to somebody. Now, the fourth one, which is delete, is please do not indulge in time wasting. If you want to watch a Mammootty movie, Mohanlal movie, which is released, and your project is there, and then the same before August 15th, it's releasing. So now you have to prioritize. If you don't go for that 3-hour movie and watch it 2 days later, your project will not go into crisis. So that is why that quadrant is called as delete. So delete time wasting activities, right? I understand that right now we're at 12:34. Please bear with me. I'm going to take 2 more minutes to close out one more topic. So now we understand what the Eisenhower management matrix is for sure. So we have covered SMART goals. Yes, we've covered lifeline activity. So for all these 3 activities, by today evening or by tomorrow, you will get a template or reference slides and documents, which is currently being worked on and which will be shared through Vinish sir with you. So I want to just talk about research for 2 minutes because you're MBA students and it's important for you. Now, a lot of you might be figuring out how to improve my communication skills. Your communication skills, presentation skills, personality development, all of this can be improved through your research skills. So I want you to write down the word research, right, in your book, RESEARCH, research, right? Type it, write it down, research. Now I want you to circle RE, right, and search. Now, any project which is going to be the first thing that you're going to do as students of this generation is you're going to go to Google and search, right? Now, there are associated R's with research, which is replacement. The first R, second R is reduction, third R is refinement. You will get the content from somewhere. You'll take it from the library, take it from different reports, everything. But then after the information has been searched by you, you will go further into that and research within that and, either get fresh information, replace some information in that report, or you will reduce the size because your faculty would have told you it has to be a 10-page report. You will also refine the content, right? And this can be done only through increased reading. The more you read, the more you will know about that particular topic, the more you will be able to refine it. So if you want to improve your communication skills, get into financial services sector, you have to know more and more, right? So only when you get into it, you will know the depth of that field and what you know and what you don't know. And the more you work on these areas of what you don't know, it will come into what you know, right? So definitely keep this in mind as you start developing yourself. So on that note, I would like to close this session. Thank you for your patient hearing and bearing with me for the additional few minutes, which I have taken around 7 additional minutes. So thank you for your time, and we will connect tomorrow in the joint session tomorrow. Uh, as we finish and we've done with smart, I want you to just type into the chat box, I'm smart, as we close this session, right? I am smart. I am smart. Great. So all of you are smart ready and you're ready to manage your time well. Excellent. So on that note, I will take your leave and we will reconnect tomorrow in the joint session tomorrow. And as discussed, please do your LinkedIn activity, complete it. We will give you some additional descriptions and some context to implementing SMART as well as the Eisenhower matrix also. But for now, your first activity is to complete the LinkedIn profiling, and the other instructions sir will share with you between today and tomorrow. Okay. Thank you. Have a great day. Good afternoon. Have a good lunch. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
തോമസ് സാറേ, തോമസ് തോമസ് ഐ വിൽ ഹിയർ. തോമസ് കേൾക്കാമോ? തോമസ് സാർ കേൾക്കാമോ? തോമസ് തോമസ് കേൾക്കാമോ? തോമസ് സാറെ കേൾക്കാമോ? തോമസ് തോമസ് കേൾക്കാമോ? കേൾക്കാം. തോമസ് കേൾക്കാമോ? തോമസ് തോമസ് കേൾക്കാമോ? തോമസ് സാർ കേൾക്കാമോ? ഇറങ്ങിക്കോ, സമയം